Hello, Ann Payton here. Wanted to talk to you today about a trauma assessment. And I do have a copy of this on my website that you're welcome to download for free. My website is www.annpayton.com/checklist. And Ann Payton is spelled Annpayton. So you're welcome to download this, and I'm just going to give you an overview today. The information on this checklist is to help you assess where you might be at um, when it comes to trauma. There's several signs that can help you articulate where you actually are and what maybe your next steps are. So, a couple of the questions that I have on the assessment is how often do you think about this trauma? Um, that can that could be occasionally, it could be obviously every day, it could be even more. So that's one of the questions to ask yourself. Um, what about nightmares? Do you have nightmares about your trauma? Do you wake up in the middle of the night after maybe a dream of reliving it? Or maybe it's something similar, but it's not a dream necessarily about your experience. But that is another factor that we find that people still sometimes have. And again, that helps with your assessment on where you are and what you need to do. What about flashbacks? For me personally, especially in the very beginning of my healing process, I did have flashbacks. But I noticed after reflecting on those flashbacks that they were triggered usually by something. There were for many, many, many years, I could not watch a movie or read a book that had a sexual assault in it. That was one of my first traumas, and that was, like many of you may already know, I buried it for years and years. So when I came across the movie, there were times when I had to walk out of the theater because it brought me right back to where I was, and it was not good for me, and I couldn't handle it at the time, and even with books. So um, that's a big one. And again, I hope you take time to reflect on these. I feel emotionally numb. Now, you will probably find that several times during the beginning of your healing process, because quite frankly, I know for me, I was exhausted. I was numb. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to do the work to, begin the healing process. And there were times where, I just didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. I was numb. So maybe you can relate to that. I am irritable and have outbursts of anger. Now, I know for my experiences in trauma, anger was a major emotion. I had outbursts of anger to God. Thank goodness he's big enough to handle it. But yeah, if there were times at my father's grave where I was yelling up to the sky, why did you do this? And using not so good language with him, even. And sometimes we may be like in the situation of sexual trauma, we may not have the opportunity to express that anger to our perpetrator. However, sometimes we switch that anger onto people that we love, which of course is not fair. However, that tends to be a way of humans switching where the anger should go. And that we do have tools on how to do that. That's you can find some of that information too on the website, or feel free to set up a call, a free complimentary call to talk about your situation. But outbursts of anger are normal. However, we need to, of course, be careful with our anger. We don't want it to escalate into where we are hurting other people or animals or ourselves. So, if you have thoughts of hurting others or yourself, um, now's the time to call for help. There are definitely hotlines that you can call. There's a suicide hotline and many more. And I have some of those listed on in my book and also on my YouTube channel. So, and if all else fails, call 911. Uh, you don't have to be at the very bottom of a pit to call for help. It's better to get help or call 911 before you get to that point. But I understand because sometimes you think, well, I may be thinking about hurting someone or hurting myself, but I'm not going to go through with it. But it's better to get help now. So if things do change, you don't actually follow through. Better to be safe than sorry. Um, What about you've lost interest in things that you used to enjoy? Um, Maybe that's hobbies, maybe you're a nature person and you like to go hiking or walking, or maybe you like to be around water, going canoeing or kayaking, and now all of a sudden you don't have the desire to do that. Well, I just want to give you some hope too, because I went through many years of uh, just not wanting to make an effort. I did just what I had to do to get by, to keep my family afloat, the responsibilities that I had to take care of for my children in the house. Um, and give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up for that. Just know there is hope, and you will get back to a point where you really uh, have the effort and enjoyment and enthusiasm to start back up on some of your hobbies. So don't give up, please. What about having anxiety or panic attacks? They could come, excuse me, they could come randomly, or they could be triggered by something. Um, I had a panic attack while I was driving, and it scared me to death. I really thought I was having a heart attack, which I hear a lot of people explaining um, when they find out what was going on with them, that it was a panic attack, but they feel like it's a heart attack. There's pain involved. There's just hyperventilating and anxiety, and your brain just isn't functioning the way it normally does when you are at a resting state or at calm or at peace. So here I want to give you some caution too. Luckily, I was at a place where I could, within a couple minutes, pull into a parking lot and shut the car off. And I had learned doing breathing exercises, which I can go into at another time on that to help calm myself down. But panic attacks range in severity. So, um, again, don't don't stop yourself if you need to call for help immediately. They're out there, and those people that are at 911 or a specific hotline that you're looking at, they know how they've heard it all. So don't think that what you're going through is something that they've never experienced, which I know is pretty normal too. We kind of feel isolated when we've gone through trauma. But again, they know how to handle what to guide you to do when something like a panic attack strikes you severely. So don't wait. Don't feel bashful or shy about calling for help. They will help you. And once you get over some of the severity of it, you will start to begin to settle down. And at that point, then you can actually engage your wisdom and your emotions to figure out your next steps. So I know I've said it again, but it's better be safe to be safe than sorry. Um, how about feelings of guilt or blame? Maybe you think in your head you could have prevented this trauma, or maybe you think that you caused it. And I will talk specifically to you about my trauma of a sexual assault. Um, Not only was there immediate feelings of shame and guilt, but there were times, during just hours after this happened on, what did I do? You start asking questions on what did I do? How did I cause this? And uh, did I give off signals? Or, your mind just goes crazy trying to blame it on yourself. And it took me a while, but I'm not the one that assaulted somebody else. I was the victim. And there are there are sometimes random acts like this. We don't really understand how how that just comes about. Um, but I do know after a long, long time of overcoming healing that knowing the Lord had really helped me, because I think when you do have a trauma, it's easy to say, well, why would God let that happen to me? I'm a good person. And we can touch on that subject at another time, but that is a very important subject. Um, God loves us. He may allow certain things to happen, but He is completely in control of your life. And if you can take the time to search your soul about the Lord, I would recommend it, because I know for a fact if it wasn't for Him, I probably wouldn't be here. Um, and because after trauma, a lot of times we go into addictive behaviors of all kinds, and it's easy to get caught up in that. So, the blaming and the guilt for something that you had no control over, it's not your fault. And you probably will have to hear that over and over. It wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything to him or her to cause them to come after you. Uh, it took a long time for me to get that through my head and my heart. But I want to give you hope. Yes, overcoming and healing from trauma is not easy and it does take time, but I want to give you hope. I will have other shows and information available to you on each specific one of these. Today was an overview, and I hope it helped you. I certainly could have used this checklist assessment and overview when I had just experienced, oops, sorry, my brother called. um, when I experienced this, this would have helped me. So I hope you find value in it. If you have any questions, um, you can contact me through my website, which I gave you, annpayton.com. You can get the checklist at annpayton.com checklist. And there also is a link in there if you'd like to set up a complimentary call. Sometimes it just feels better when you can talk to someone that has gone through a similar experience. Because I know for me, from my experiences, I felt all alone and I felt as if no one understood. And if I could have had someone give me a helping hand or just come to me and share their story, I would have felt better. I know. So that's my goal in life. I want to be that person that I didn't have, but be that person for you. So I hope you have a great day. Again, check out my website, set up a time to talk. I'd be more than happy to. All right. Well, have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.